everybody. This is Alicia, Liz, and Ant, and we are Servant Decoded, back to break down the latest episode, season 4, episode 7, titled Myth.
Hi.
Hi.
Jesus God.
We
And a
had
third
a
thing.
we had a lively post-watch discussion because some of us were a little more frustrated than others at what
Liz.
I see as an episode that was
Liz,
75% trolling
Li-
fans and Redditors.
Yeah. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, it's it did feel like they were having a go at us.
I don't appreciate the approach, but I don't know. Like I was telling you before, it feels like a cop-out. They're like, oh, clearly he's lying to them, and none of it matters. But it all matters. But we're not going to tell you why it matters. So have fun with that.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what information we get after this, because
If any, it might just be total action from here.
yeah.
Because nobody talks very much at all.
Right. One of the I don't know. Here's why I think that's possibly what's going to happen. The book that was on the coffee table was called Significant Form and doesn't exist. But I did find information on that term. Significant form refers to an aesthetic theory developed by English art critic Clive Bell, which specified a set criteria for what qualified as a work of art. Clive says it must have potential to provoke aesthetic emotion in its viewer.
Meta.
So, and when I looked up just, when I even just put like the term in, and then there was a subtitle to that, significant form, symbol, and allegory in modern art.
Thank you.
And so I found some interesting stuff on that I'll share with you. But basically it is discussing what different like symbolism in art, and how the stuff that you see, the art that you take in is, trying to teach you something, or, is meant to speak on something. So what I took away from that was that they were trying to remind us that this is a story, that our literal interpretation of it may not be the right way to look at it. And that
exactly
what they are telling us is, like, some of these things that you guys are picking apart, it's not that you're wrong, it's just that it doesn't necessarily matter. It's all meant to convey a message or a couple of messages.
Well, then don't tell us that everything matters.
No, but that's the thing. It all does. It just doesn't matter why it matters.
Right.
That makes no sense.
No, it does. It's just a cop-out. It's a way to tell a story. It's bullshit, kind of, but it works.
There was one site that came up that I found interesting as well, because like the art was a bunch of faces squished together.
Ooh.
So I was like, I don't know. I just thought that looks awfully familiar.
Sean.
Yeah. It just, I felt like it was proof that like the artwork that seems to be constantly featured in the show was important to the greater message of the show. So I don't know. In some ways, it feels like they're just, being really. In some ways, it's a bit self-indulgent, right? It's like, look at this meaningful piece of art that we put out.
It's a weird parachute. Maybe it was written that way, or maybe they like altered something weird, but like you built all of the things to like make me feel away, or like I guess get people talking, or like so you can't get ahead of the thing.
What's the thing, Ant? You built the whole thing. What thing?
Show?
The show?
Right.
Or what the show's trying to say.
No, they're not even trying to say anything. It's just a way to tell a story, really.
Yeah.
And now that's all out the window.
There's 3 types of symbolism: biblical symbolism, mythological symbolism, and psychological symbolism, all of which are clearly displayed throughout the series.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, so taking it to okay, so let me ask, when the episode ended, Liz, what did you, like, at the end of it, what were you feeling like? Where were we at in terms of what we know to be true, and what do you think is then meant to happen next? I just thought each of us might be able to like answer that, or I don't know. What do you think?
I thought that the Dorothy stuff was true. Her investigating Leanne's obsession with her over the years, and her investigation into who Leanne is and her family by extension. I thought that was real. And then the very end, when Uncle George, it's clear that he's going to try to take Leanne down himself, I believe. I think that's where we are moving forward. I don't understand why he wouldn't try to actively engage the help of Julian and Sean and Dorothy. Maybe it's part of the CLS coda or his religious beliefs that he has to do it alone. That seemed to be the gist of what he was saying. Like, maybe he really did leave the cult, but it's like, nothing's worked, so I'm going to sacrifice myself and get rid of this girl. Maybe trying to keep the Turners safe. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I thought.
What about you, Aunt?
It feels like everything that happened.
Okay, Lost.
Right. Anyway, it's just like, and then he like had to pull them away from it so they didn't fear her as much in order to get to her himself. But like now that he's like opened the bag, so to speak, like, oh, she hid the baby, this, that, and the other. Like I guess they believe him that all of that is true, all of his nonsense bullshit. So now that they don't have any sort of mystical, I mean, I guess really Sean doesn't have any sort of mystical connection to what's going on. It leaves them open to allow that to happen without realizing what could have happened.
Okay, hold on. I think I see what might be happening. By getting the Turners to believe that Dorothy is nothing special and everything that they believe was supernatural was just, could be, here's the explanation. Here's the real life explanation. She has no powers. You've all been fooled.
Liar.
I know he's a liar. After I wrote lies repeatedly in Discord last night. But listen, I want to finish this thought. So by getting the Turners to believe that Leanne is nothing more than a young girl with zero power, that by extension makes them believe that Jericho won't disappear with Leanne. That frees them of that bargain, that bind that Sean's now referencing. It's a package deal. We made a Faustian bargain, Leanne for Jericho. If we get rid of Leanne, we get rid of Jericho. So it makes them even more willing to let her go. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And to your point, and the last thing Sean says is, that's all we want, George, that and the baby.
Exactly. He's telling them this is how you can keep the baby.
Yeah.
Because I think,
and that must be a lie too.
It is a lie. It's to get them to let her go.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Because if he's just like, there's no baby Jericho, like when Leanne's gone, so it's Jericho, then that makes them less likely to let go of Leanne because they want to keep Jericho.
Right.
I think we're well beyond that now, though.
Well,
because like there's so much more at threat. So I mean, whether or not, I know I don't have children, but like if somebody's gonna be like, either you all die or this baby goes away, I don't know that I'm gonna not live.
I don't think that Leanne has threatened their lives yet. And as Sean said to Julian,
You crushed the house. Anyway.
Well, she crushed the people that were attacking her. As Sean said to Julian, again, we've made a Faustian bargain. As long as she's happy, good things happen. If she's not happy, if we're not following her, bad things happen. So
I have trouble
ergo, if we keep her happy, we're safe. And it's what Leanne keeps telling them.
No,
as
but
long
it's
as I'm with you, you're
inconsistent.
perfectly safe. I mean, there has not been a lot of consistency over the past few episodes on what Sean and Julian believe and don't believe, especially Julian.
Yeah.
No, it's her behavior that's inconsistent, to be honest with you.
Her behavior?
Because, like, I mean, I know you can't take away the baby every time, but she's not been consistently happy. She's been,
True.
challenged, so to speak, several times, and the baby doesn't, like, not everything goes bad every time. So now we're gonna start, like, picking bits.
Yeah.
Well,
Seems like weird.
I would say happiness and unhappiness are more along the lines of commitment or Mama. In commitment, they tried to have her committed and removed. In Mama, Dorothy tried to flee. That's when she gets unhappy, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And bad things happen. Jericho disappeared. Dorothy fell down the staircase.
Yeah, but
Do you guys think that Sean and Julian are going to let Dorothy in on their conversation with George?
No,
Yeah.
That's not their MO.
not at all. And that would open up so many other questions for her, and I guess that would be a problem.
So once again, even though we have this like appearance of them being reunited at the end of the episode as a family, they're still not really, because they're still lying to Dorothy. And
Right.
Dorothy's going on her own little adventure, trying to figure out who Leanne really is. And even saying that, it just made me think of season 2 and pizza and
Yeah.
the whole like finding Leanne to begin with, when Dorothy felt like she had to, she always says like I have to do everything myself.
Yeah.
It's very similar to that, I think.
I took that to mean even if they're back in their happy place, quote unquote, look at how fundamentally unhappy this group is.
Yeah.
That they're not going to get to happiness until they have those conversations they've been avoiding.
Absolutely. So
Oh, yeah.
So just a quick rundown. When the episode starts, we've got
Julian waking up.
well, not even waking up because he's already awake. His eyes are like wide open, which was interesting. I just noticed it because a lot of times we see people waking up, so his eyes was open.
Good.
And he's hearing noises, and so he goes to investigate, and it looks like it was Sean doing a late night visit into his office, where he appears to be researching and trying to figure out what Leanne is. And then we also see the frozen people in the street, those on the cameras. And
That was so creepy.
Very weird.
Do you think that's a Leanne punishment?
I don't know. So it occurred to me that it's like I've written in my notes a bunch of places that we have people that freeze, but it's
Right.
not everybody, right? So that did make me wonder more about Dorothy's like state of being alive or not, because she's frozen at various points as well. So is the freezing a result of somebody, like, is it different? Is her freezing her trauma response, but everybody else's freezing is something different related to the cult or something? Or is it the same thing and it's like the freezing in itself is a clue to something? Because Sean and Julian haven't had that happen to them, but it just made me think when I saw everybody just standing there completely still. And I was rewatching Cricket today. Sean tells Leanne to go and get Dorothy moving. And when Dorothy goes into the room, Dorothy's having one of those moments where she's just sitting on the bed frozen, and completely out of it. And Leanne has to shake her. So I don't know. I don't know why they're frozen, other than are they being controlled by something or someone, like you said, by Leanne's powers.
Given the fact that she bit Julian and said, you talk too much, and then supposedly took his voice away.
That had to be her. She had to have taken his voice away.
Well, I'm saying, if with her being in that mood, that seems like a thing she would do.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, no, for
you
sure.
guys let me get attacked twice, bad, worthless youths. Watch the pit for a while, and then come back and tell me that you're ready to protect me.
Or it could be like, you're annoying me and y'all aren't useful unless I need you. So
yes,
stand
that
there.
kind of petty dictator. Yeah,
But she doesn't
They're
seem
also not very good because George gets right in there. Like, anyway.
exactly. And I was thinking that too. I'm like, somehow she doesn't realize she's dialed into everything, but she's not dialed into the fact that George, who she would know how he operates, is
Roscoe
in
too.
the apartment.
well, Roscoe's one of her people, so it'd be easy for Roscoe to sneak him in, right?
But what
maybe
I'm
that
saying
works,
is
yeah.
that, like, if she knows things, then wouldn't she also know that Roscoe is a
Did
point?
that.
I don't
Right.
think she knows things like that. I don't think she can read minds.
That's the question. So if she can't read minds, then she wouldn't be able to make people. She can't read minds, but she can control minds.
She can control bodies.
Okay.
Well, and minds too. Like Sean, take the job. Julian, we're not breaking up.
And I think that's why Ant is frustrated, because he's like the rules aren't clear.
No, they are not.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like what are the rules? And I'm gonna on top of that, maybe feeling frustrated because at this point with 3 episodes left to do that and then still not really have any solid answers on the greater mystery of it, other than we know that one of the theories is true, right? Like that's kind of just, it's like 1 or 2 of the theories is true, but we may not know about any of the rest of it.
And even if the
How are
voice
they
thing,
going to like lay that out between now and the end of the series? So,
right?
so what he's saying, I think, is that like, yeah, we've been told that theories are true, but we're not really told which ones are true. And so there may always still be some things that don't make sense, but in the
Right.
end, we're still going to have to draw some kind of conclusion without actually being given some of the answers.
Oh no, that's absolutely. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
right. But like my problem with the little scene when they're like eating dinner is like she's like, oh, what happened to your voice? Like you can. He's like, oh, it was allergies, and then Sean's like, oh, I went viral, and he's like, yeah, it happens. It's not that special. Other times we've seen things like that. She flies off the handle immediately. But what? She's gonna go upstairs and think about it? Like what? Like what is the like? Where is the?
Yeah.
That's why I have a hard time believing he's happy, it's fine. Which, I mean, it makes perfect sense otherwise. It's just like in certain moments, it doesn't connect for me for some reason, unless it's just a function of how it's written.
Well, I think that was also another like reason why it was somewhat confusing, because they were operating under the premise that she's ordinary. So
Right.
like we see this moment of Leanne being a petulant teenager,
Right.
and not getting her way, or child or whatever, and not getting her way and feeling like, and leaving the table. But the silence, there was no music, there was nothing.
Right.
Like it was
And
meant
then,
to be like, okay, but at the same time, like, yeah, if George is lied about everything and she does have special powers, then why wouldn't that have come out in that moment?
it would have, right, it would have overwritten the lie,
Right.
unless them not believing it takes her power away. But then if that's the case, what?
No, them. I really don't think it's them not believing her takes the power away. I think it's because she was, like I said last night, happy in the moment. Dorothy's
But she
being nice to
wasn't.
her.
They
She
weren't.
wasn't. She wasn't happy when they sat down to dinner.
Not after that little exchange. No.
No, when they sit down at the table, I would argue that she's happy because Dorothy's cooked. She's eating at the table. Dorothy's
Yeah,
acknowledging
but
her
then,
presence.
right.
It's
But then
what she's
everybody
been.
refused. Mm,
It's what she's been wanting. Let's
mm.
say the spell lifts and Julian can talk again because that's what she wants to be
But
part
then
of
why
this.
would she question it?
Why would she question what?
Well, she still
If
got
she gave him
upset.
his voice back, why would you be like, hey, why are you talking? Like, you wouldn't. You would know that you did that.
I took that more as a don't do it again.
But he didn't do anything, apparently, if that's her doing. Like, he didn't do anything. Like, he
No,
just.
like you were bothering me this morning. I took your voice away. You
Eh,
got it back. Oh, what happened to your voice, Julian? Like a reminder. This is what I did earlier.
Yeah, so if the premise is that like when she gets upset, things happen. At the end of the scene, she gets upset, but nothing happens.
right. Everything is just as
Yeah.
it is.
And
What I
so
was trying to say was when she sat down to the table, she was getting more of what she wanted. I mean,
so the extreme of her anger wasn't enough for anything bad to happen. Is that what
it
you're
was
saying?
like when the nurses shut the door on her. She said, I'm trying very hard not to get angry.
Yeah.
If she were to flip out at that dinner table and freeze everyone and, break someone's arm,
Yeah.
well, they certainly wouldn't love her after
It's a
that.
troll, yeah.
Yeah. And when she walked in, like Dorothy's making, I see what you're saying, Liz. That and her hope is coming from that. And I think that's what Dorothy wanted. That's why Dorothy cooked.
Yeah.
She wanted to show Leanne. Dorothy's gonna start screwing with Leanne.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna screw back with her. And I think that was what she was doing. She also made that comment at the dinner table about mother, right? Our mother was
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She was poking. poking hard. I think they were all feeling a little bit of freedom,
Yeah.
a little taste of control and freedom.
Some normalcy, lack of a better word.
Well, no, freedom and control from her, control over her, a little freedom from her. Dorothy feels like she's gathering info, getting important, ammo. Sean and Julian are thinking, well, she doesn't really have powers at all. We're free, woo.
Yeah.
And
And
they were all
yeah.
trying to antagonize her.
Yeah.
And then she gave them a warning. I mean, I don't know exactly how the Julian thing works, but that's the best I can come up with from what the show gave me.
Okay, so I want to kind of get to like maybe everything that George said, but before that, Julian, when he was brushing his teeth, like kept hearing something. The lights were flickering.
Crickets.
Yeah, and heard the crickets.
Good Lord.
And so I thought that was like he acknowledged that. I'm not sure what that was meant to suggest, unless it was more of just saying, or I didn't know that I heard the crickets, but you heard the crickets. When
I did. I had talked about a theory that I'd read about in last week's episode about crickets, that you can hear them every time someone's frozen, or I forget what, something related to Leanne's powers or people acting strangely.
Like what happened right after that?
She said, "Come dance with me."
Yeah.
And he
was, he's like, "Tell me I'm not alone in this, that you recognize that people keep getting hurt in this house." And I think that's when she bit. Oh, she said, "You're safe as long as you're with me. Relax. You're safe when you're with me," which can take on another meaning, like when you're with me, like
don't
with me on my side and with me in person.
Of course.
And then he says, "What does that even mean? I need you to tell me that I'm not alone in this. Tell me you see how fucked up things have gotten."
Yeah.
And that's when she bites. I put in my notes, I think Leanne would argue things have gotten better.
Well, yeah, it's what she wants. So of
Right.
course.
Well,
Like-
and the other thing to remember is that regardless of how supernatural she is, clearly she has been trying to drive a wedge within the family members, because it's easier to control each of them individually if they're not working as a team. And so I think that was also part of what Uncle George was trying to do, is to at least just get them all back on the same team again.
Oh, that's a good point.
And, and by the end of the episode, it worked. Everybody is sitting at the table and they're a team again, which I think is just going to serve to bring its full circle to season 1, because that was probably the last time, that they were all, or at least Dorothy and Sean were like a solid team.
Close to being on color pages, yeah.
And then Dorothy tells Leanne when she's got her in the attic that, if she's trying to drive a wedge between her and Sean, it wasn't going to happen because they're a team, and that's just not
right. I remember that.
Yeah. And so it was like, well, I'll show you guys, and proceeded to divide them.
Yeah, I still believe that with Leanne being tied to the house, what do termites do? They eat wood. Yeah, it was a convenient place, and Leanne said sorry when Dorothy fell, but of her, I don't know. I'm walking back on that.
It's again, that's how everything is. It's both. Everything is both most of the time.
And mad and sad, and the termites. That one.
So so they have that moment, and then
it's Sean and Julian in the basement.
Yeah, we don't watch that, right? We get to it pretty quickly.
Sean shows him the book.
Right.
Julian's
So
book.
So within the book, we saw certain pages: the Faustian Bargain, the Fallen Angel, the Lucifer.
That was it.
Sean was focusing on that one picture of an angel trying to climb out of a pit. I did some biblical research, and for Faustian Bargain, the most important part of the definition is that it talks about that the story it inverts the premise of the book of Job. In the book of Job, God and Satan are fighting for the man's soul, or like making a bet about the man's soul, and God wins by taking away everything from Job, and Job remaining loyal to God. In Faustian Bargain, Satan does it the opposite way. He offers the main character, Mephistopheles, everything that he could ever want.
Hmm.
And but that's not enough because, like we saw with Sean and Julian, false happiness it's not real.
Well, that could also be an adolescent type thing because some people like get in relationships and they're like, "Oh, I love you," and like love isn't always enough to keep things up.
And like she said to Julian, I keep giving you everything.
People insist on being miserable. Under fall, yeah, poor Leanne is right. Under fallen angel, I found a little clip in Revelations. It talks about the dragon that I've referenced a gazillion times from the
Mm.
painting of Leanne as the woman in that painting, The Woman and the Dragon, which is God taking this great dragon called Satan and throwing him down to earth, and Satan's followers, the angels, thrown down with him. So
Wait a minute.
Oh,
That's interesting.
wait, huh?
Also, I don't know if this matters, but Satan was God's favorite.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, what does that mean for the CLSers? Because it says that they
His followers.
follow Satan for 1,000 years
Mm.
before they're allowed, I don't know what, to return to heaven or
Like purgatory, you mean? Or like,
no, earth. Or maybe it's they're put in a pit for 1,000 years and then they get thrown down to earth. But
and
it
Earth
just
is
says
the
that
reward or the
the
punishment?
punishment.
Fantastic.
I was also I was also thinking that book, like, and the pages they showed us, like, I was thinking that even everything that Uncle George like lied about, perhaps that book and the pages we saw, perhaps that was the truth.
That's what I thought.
At least like that, like like allegorically speaking,
Yeah,
even if she's not
right.
literally whatever, because I don't think they're Christian necessarily. Not that that changes anything about deities, but like they
No,
must have a
exactly. Right. Yeah. And going back to like the name of the book and the purpose of the name, and then looking at the
yeah,
side. So like
everything is
this
like
is
a
our
color or a shape,
allegory to these things.
right? And then the way George ticked off like the merinos and the wood, the everything. I wish they talked more about the merinos.
Oh my God.
I thought
That was the
Alicia,
one that upset me the most. I was like,
I
the
know.
moment.
the merinos are important. I don't believe you.
What did he say?
Probably not, but
Do you remember what did he say when he wrote that?
that's
Nobody
the
did he
thing.
comment on it? That was like the only thing he didn't really
That
say
was,
anything about.
yeah. That was, I want to say that was the one, although I hate being like
That was
so
like the last. No,
literal.
I'm pretty sure you're right because that was the
But
last thing he asked about on the paper, and then they kind of just like
yeah, it was the only thing that he didn't directly respond to.
pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So hopefully they'll come back one more time.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing that I don't think is gonna happen because that's why I think it's a little bit of a. It's not a bait and switch. It's just like they matter, but they don't matter that I need to tell you.
Right.
Because it's like an
that's not
allegory
necessary.
for like it's so weird and upsetting.
I mean, why make Julian look so much like, or why make Sergio look so much like Julian? Why give us all the
Well, that
comps of
too.
the mom in the bed,
Unless
like
that's
Bertha in the
Parallels with the
bed?
father,
like
and
all
yet,
of these
yeah.
things you've seen. Yeah, you're right. That is weird.
And like, why was that okay? Like,
Yeah.
she was supposed to be there, and that got bad real quick.
Yeah. Oh,
And then,
sorry, I didn't take any notes of the Uncle George scenes because it's all lies.
Right. Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
yeah,
I think I drew a snake and just
that's
wrote
fair.
lies,
But, okay.
lies.
That's where I was headed.
But I remember I could have sworn in this episode when he was mentioning maybe not the marinas exactly, but like what the cult does, and he referenced the Marinos. It was like, it's not our job to fix things.
Like,
What?
don't interfere.
Yeah, it says something like it's our job to. Oh gosh, I know what you're talking about.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they and said like we don't choose who we help. We just go
Yeah.
to help.
Yeah.
But then what does choose who you help? Like, where's the parameter or where's
Right,
the
yeah.
instruction?
Right. How do
And
you
like, why
work?
is it bad to help certain?
Right. Why was it bad for her to leave?
Well, she chose to do that, so I guess it was just that it wasn't. And I don't know. Yeah, like
Well,
why?
she got kidnapped and then chose to stay.
But
But
like, why are they the judge and jury, or who is the judge? And,
Like, who determines? And then, like, why are you messing with people's families if it's not your right?
she'd left her spot or whatever,
Right.
which got me thinking, yeah, so like, are they sent to stressful situations, or how are they
But
serving?
Yeah, exactly.
and like, how are they choosing?
Exactly. How are they? What?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, what exactly were they doing helping the Merinos? Like, what did they need help with?
because that
I
got
mean,
pretty bad in a way that like,
it
just because she's there, we're not gonna kill my family.
swerved pretty quickly,
Yeah,
pretty hard.
right. Within like, what was it? A week? A day? Was it how long? Not
It
long.
was not long. I don't know if it was a day, but a week sounds about right. So in the basement, the things that Uncle George, I just thought we'd list off real quick the stuff that Uncle George said, just
Hmm.
what he
Sure.
said. So I'm going to tell you the truth about Leanne Grayson. We
Oh.
found her in rubble of this fire, right? That's what he
Hmm.
said.
Like the ashes, yeah.
And a new path, and he accepted it because he had nothing else, and they built the cult, which even
Mm.
that was a little like, I didn't believe that either, that the cults, but whatever. And so he said that. He said that the Church of Lesser Saints, their church beliefs are an illusion, and that as she got older, her tendencies began to show up, and she put wood chips or glass in people's seats when she was upset with them. He said that, let's see what else. That Dorothy, that she had bonded with Dorothy and was obsessed, that they come once a year, that on the day of her mom's death to visit and watch Dorothy.
He said that they would find out where she was and what story she might be covering,
Okay.
and they would take Leanne. And that one year, and that every year she would
That
pick
was
out her
fun.
outfits like 2 weeks ahead of time. It meant so much to her.
Yeah.
Y'all, the show is wild. Now hearing it again for like the seventh time, he's doing the same thing they've been doing the entire time. Like that part's true, but then I guess she's still magical?
Right.
Interesting.
So yeah, it said, so he said that her mom had been cruel to her, that
Mm.
she was about 8 or 9 years old when they found her, which still didn't track with, I thought, perhaps she had been poisoning Sean's, becoming something else. So I believe that means like her leaving in terms of the overarching fall from grace, like she became the fallen angel when she left.
Or she could have been, putting stuff in your food.
He says that old houses always have secrets, and theirs has more than most. And then they talked about the doll and Jericho, and they showed the clip from Boba where Julian was banging the pot.
Baby, wake up, babe. I love that. It makes me laugh every time.
And that I just, and so I remember us discussing that as a possibility that the kid was being carried in and out, because in that same episode at the end, you see Toby bump into Wanda with a baby carrier. So again, there's corroborated evidence to show that like both parts of the lie. Does that make sense? Like that happened. We saw that happen.
Hmm.
So he said there was a woman who died and had a baby, and Leanne on the street, and used that as her way into the house.
Right.
She sent an application. Dorothy read the applications and chose her.
Right.
Correct.
So why would then getting a baby, going like, oh, this is what I'm so are they saying that Leanne went and got the baby?
She saw the baby, thought it was a present or a message from God,
Right.
took it, and then like a week later, Jericho died, and she thought, "Oh, this is my way in."
Yeah, he's fine.
I
I don't
thought
think she's that smart.
she grabbed the baby like right before because she saw Jericho. Wait, okay. You're
No,
saying
it
saw the
happened
baby
before.
and then grabbed the baby is what I was thinking.
It happened before Jericho passed.
Well, what did the ads? Did we ever see the ad they put out? Like, did they? They wouldn't specify that she didn't specifically have a baby. You're just hiring a nanny. Why would she think? You know?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, how could that be Leanne's way in? How could they guarantee that Dorothy was going to pick Leanne?
She would had to have known that they didn't actually have a baby.
That's what he said, that she had been following Dorothy for weeks. She
But did
found
they?
this she found this baby in the alley, thought it was from God, and then Jericho's death occurred, and she saw that, and she thought, "Oh, this is my way in." It doesn't make sense. None
No,
of
I
that.
mean that. Yeah, Yeah. Ugh.
I mean, she could have maybe put a handwritten letter in the mail slot, and it's on top.
That's a lot
But
of quick
She
movements.
hired
Yeah.
her before she'd hired her before Jericho died. Remember the calendar says Jericho's something appointment next day. Nanny arrives.
Put the doctor's appointment in her calendar.
Hallucinating? Not hallucinating, but wasn't she under the impression that the baby was the doll in her
No,
grief? Though?
no, I believe these were Jericho alive
But
notes.
Jericho died at 13 weeks.
Right.
If he
Or
died,
maybe it was like 3-month appointment or 3 months
Mm.
checkup. But it was something, it was like back to work coming up, this appointment coming up. We saw Sean gone for a week, Sean to California, and Nanny arrives.
I get what you're saying. I just don't think that, I don't know that it's clear because I felt like at the beginning of the series, Sean was like going along with her hiring a nanny.
Right.
I think he was
Jericho
going along with
already-
her letting it continue to happen.
Because if
No, they explain to her when she comes about the doll, like immediately.
Right. I'm saying I think it was more about Sean going along with Dorothy continuing to let the nanny arrive. Like, why aren't we telling her the job is off?
yeah, I
He
see.
couldn't do that. That would break the delusion. I mean, we should go back and look at the journal.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
but
pretty sure, but I mean, the story that Uncle George tells, it doesn't make sense.
No,
It's nonsense. I think that
it's
part
all
of the
too.
story is
that's the point. Yeah, that's
bullshit.
is that it didn't add up. I don't understand how Julian and Sean did not see all of the holes in his story enough to like even though they asked him about all of it, like
Yeah.
even still like
Even if I did kind of believe you or whatever, like I know what's been going on in this house, and like you're just gonna tell me, oh, she put wood in your bed. Okay, George. Like,
Yeah.
why would I?
yeah.
I can understand trusting him, but I don't know that I would. That's not a lot of information for me to be like, oh, you changed my mind. Like, I
Yeah.
know what happened to me.
So you have to assume that like that they wanted that badly enough
Hmm.
that they were willing to believe it, right? They were willing to like
Oh,
because
there
that
you
makes
go.
it easier for them.
Yeah, that would make sense in the context of things of being, like faith versus
Right. Yeah.
non-believing or
Well,
Well,
and
you know.
I wrote
but
in
on
my
the-
notes, I wrote this episode is all about faith.
Right, for sure. Well,
I
myth.
mean, that's the theme of the episode.
Well, and also he says we all search for meaning in dark things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So you look for meaning there. Now I'm telling you that wasn't true, but here you go. I'll give you all of these explanations. Does that make you feel better? Type of a thing.
Yeah, but yeah,
And they're like,
I
okay,
guess.
yeah, that does make us feel better.
Sure,
It was all a lie, and
but
George is like,
see
no, you played your part,
that bothered me
your
too.
religion, and now you're telling me.
It's time we return your family now.
Right.
I believe he says time to return to your family now.
I listened to it 3 times because I was
Hmm.
and I don't think he said 2.
Time to return your family?
Yeah.
But to go back
Huh.
to Roscoe for a second, just I don't know, him over here. Go back to Roscoe, just like him overhearing what he told Sean and Julian. I don't know why that would cancel out his belief in everything. Because like if you remember, what was that the first season? He's like, "Oh, they changed my life for the better. Everything's so much better now."
Right.
So between there and I guess the seasons prior, the seasons after, like you left your family
Right.
Yeah.
because things got better,
Yeah.
and
And why
then
did you leave your
you
family?
you overhear this one vague thing, and I don't know.
Well, it didn't seem very vague. I mean, it seemed
Well,
like,
well, no, it was very specific. I just mean if they did something to you where you happened to get a better job or got healthier or got more money, like, don't you remember that happening to you? Like, wasn't that real for you, even if it wasn't like from God?
well, if the cult that I'm in said, if one of the high members came down and said, look, we're just putting on a con. Here's how we do it. I would
Well,
say.
you made my life better? Like, was it is
If
just a self-improvement
he's
kind of thing?
saying,
Like,
well, if I belong to a cult that was like, we can make everything in your life better
that they did.
through magic,
Right.
and my life got better, and then one of the higher ups came back and said, "Look, hun, it's all a con. Like, yeah, this stuff happened, but it wasn't there's no magic."
But
I
even
think
if
I think I would be so angry at being
would you though?
fooled. I would.
You would believe that sight unseen? Because that's faith. That would be like that's like, like whether or not you did it, you gave me the tools or the story to like put myself in that position. So you kind of did it anyway.
I think my ego would take over, and I would say,
No, that's fair too.
"Fuck you for lying to me.
Hmm.
I will go take my money and better life,
Oh, sure.
and don't ever talk to me again."
We don't really know what that means, though. Not to nail down Roscoe, because I can't imagine we're gonna go back to that. But yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, he's always been kind of a vulnerable character, right?
That man must have crying on his like what is it? Not the
Yeah,
writer, like on his resume. He's like
special skills.
And he's good at the
wearing
like the tearing and like he does a good one tear or a good like eye
such
water.
Yeah,
yeah, and like such subtle facial
Oh yeah.
expressions. You could see him like panicking or like getting sad or every time.
yeah.
Props to Roscoe the actor because I totally agree. Yeah.
He's great.
He's amazing.
He should add under special skills, great at mimicking hypnosis
And wearing a hat.
in a creepy way, and wearing cool hats that look
Always
cool.
with the hat on.
But then what do we make of well, that's enough. We can talk
Looks
about
good
that
in a
another
hat.
time.
Side characters.
And even if just to
Yeah.
harp on this one other point, if he had a vision or whatever in his hypnosis that like moved him, so I mean, I know you can implant memories and things like that, but like, does that also mean nothing to you? I don't know. Maybe it's just writing.
I think maybe part of the problem was that it was unbelievable to us to an extent at least that all of those people would accept what George was saying.
Right.
Even though they
So
all had such personal experiences that
pretty visceral too.
that go it's pretty real. So
Like,
I
that all
think
came
that's
out of your
interesting.
One thing I got excited about was my NDE board theory from last week.
What did you pick up?
I just had a theory that since M. Night Shyamalan's such a big fan of trolling like flat earther boards and reading about other people that believe in like dumb shit like that, he's obsessed. He's fascinated with it. So I was thinking, what if the cult, what if they're not angels? What if they're just a bunch of people that are religious and had NDEs and found each other and were like,
Or
let's become a cult?
that, or they got involved with the same, I don't know if him as a person or whatever, but maybe they were like hypnotized into thinking they had some. No, that makes sense though because everybody's reborn.
Yeah, we're back. Oh my God. What? Why? Well, must be for a special reason.
Because that's what they told Leanne too. Like, oh, you died and came back, and that's
But
interesting.
but Uncle George was lying, so then my excitement went out the window.
No. But even if he was, like, there's still some sort of a mechanism where that they think that either that actually does happen or like that's got to be part of it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it happened to Leanne, like that's part of their belief system, I think.
Oh, another thing about how faith was manifested in this episode, or not in this episode, but that doesn't make sense. Never mind. Sorry.
You're good. We're all scattered over here, you know.
I was going to talk about Leanne and her notebook and how she seems to think that it's about faith. If you believe in it enough, you'll get your and if you have the right intention or the right whatever she says, you'll get your answer.
Oh yeah.
Here you guys, here's a page for everyone.
So does she misunderstand her own nonsense then? Is that the thing? Like, is she so naive that she thinks that everybody has this? That's weird too.
Yeah,
She's assuming that like if they've all been reborn, which is what she's assuming, then she's believing that they all have the power. They just don't realize it. And if they knew how to use it like she did, then they could get whatever they want.
Yeah. And remember the seagulls, the first time it happened, she was just like doodling
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it's called when you allow your hand to, what is it, autonomic
Like
writing?
automatic writing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that. Like the
Like
bees.
channeling.
Yeah. And then the
Mm.
seagulls attacked Julian.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, whoa, whoa, oh, okay.
Well,
This
she
is
was
another
mad
way to
too.
make things happen. I
Yeah.
draw them. But she probably put some magical thinking around it, like I
Right. But
have
then
to
why would
like
you? Right.
Yeah.
But
so
then
she's
does she think other
imagining
people? Mm-hmm.
I think she's imagining, well, it works for me. If you do what I do, it should work for you too.
Wouldn't that be a challenge to her then? Or are we just trying to
Mm,
get people on our side?
Because she wants to be special. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
yeah, and
Because
I think
everybody.
she genuinely wants to give her worthless youths this gift.
Mhm.
She's trying to
Mm.
teach them something, and
Oh, I
maybe
wonder.
it'll make you a little less worthless.
But then what happens when it doesn't work?
Haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
She'll say
Maybe that's.
you didn't believe enough.
Or we can hang you up.
Come on, guys, it works for me.
Mhm.
Oh, this is gonna be real bad.
Should work for you. I don't think we're ever going to see anything about that
Yeah.
again.
No, I don't really think so either. But like, it would be interesting. No, you're probably right.
The tunnels.
Ah, the tunnel.
So I'm
So when he said that, did he just mean within the house?
no.
Like, did they have those?
So he
No,
says that within their neighborhood,
Right.
there's a network of tunnels, and it was used to transport mentally ill family members to the hospital for treatment to hide issues that they don't want displayed to high society.
But the entire city?
No,
it's a neighborhood.
he said in this neighborhood. So he didn't say the entire.
Oh,
Yeah, he said in this
It's
neighborhood.
I bet it's
okay.
always been an affluent neighborhood.
Yeah, right. I think
Oh,
that's
for
what he was trying to get at there. And back in season 1, we got that clue when Dorothy was down in the tunnels and she was talking about the network of tunnels underneath the city in that news report. And where she came home and smelled like sewage and said, she didn't want to hold Jericho because of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we knew they existed, and I reposted the observation theory because it does appear as though if there are a network of tunnels, that is the way that people have been able to move in and out of that house undetected.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's
Good.
what brought it the drawers being open and things being in different places.
What about the fire on the stove?
Well, that too.
That could have been someone sneaking in. I don't know why at that point, but
Yeah.
Maybe to
So
eat? It doesn't seem like it was malicious. It's like a weird
no.
thing to happen. Maybe they're just using the house occasionally. I don't really know what.
Well, and so I thought about like people that have appeared down there, and Roscoe, like Toby, has appeared in the basement randomly a few times.
Mm.
I just thought perhaps Toby knows about the tunnels as well, and maybe going back to Trojan horses, like maybe he's still a player in some way. I don't know, I'm probably wrong, but it was just something I thought about.
I
it
wonder
would
if
be
we'll see
cool
that
if you were
again.
a secret cult member.
Yeah, so I thought that might be something that might pop up in the next few episodes.
Well, and yeah, so the next episode is titled Tunnels, right? Or Tunnel.
Mhm. Yeah.
We'll learn something more. When Uncle George was telling the story of how the tunnels came to be, why they were there, I immediately thought of Frank. That's all the family does is sweep unpleasantness under the rug,
Mhm.
get rid of it, hide it, lie about it. What if the mom had gotten really depressed, and like a clinical depression?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, or something else. It's something that made them want to get her out of there quietly. Thinking about the tunnels too. So that's the other thing. It's like, okay, well, Jericho could have also been carried out through there.
That's what I was just about to say.
Mhm.
Is
Like
that
he died initially.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, because it appears that Frank and Toby both own hazmat suits.
What 3 over? So,
That's a wrap on Toby, guys.
oh, it is?
Yeah,
Scratch that. Thank you for looking.
it's sleuthing.
Um,
What did you make of? I mean, do you think the news is just absurd for the sake of being uncomfortable and absurd? Like, I know it doesn't mean anything, but like that little girl, like, this is my third grade teacher. She's gone now.
now she's
Like,
gone now. Yeah, I wrote
all
that down.
right.
I think that was like local humans. I don't think we're ever gonna get anything from that.
Because like that could have easily just been a
Whoa.
nice thing. Like, look, it's a picture of my mom, and like I'm eating a cupcake, and it's my mom. Like, why did it have to be like
And they talk
angry?
about eating people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Once
like
again,
what?
local humans. Like, people like to
yeah,
eat people, is what she says.
she's gone now.
And now I'm looking at the
It's
alien
just
video.
absurd.
So I think ultimately, too, I mean, obviously, he brought up Occam's razor. The simplest solution is almost always the right
Often the right one.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's the simple solution?
one.
To well, I mean, we have so many solutions to simplify.
That she is indeed a fallen angel?
I think his,
Hmm.
like, what is our Occam's razor? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Or what is the writer's intention?
Is this Mr. Shyamalan we're talking about?
Episode was really just either the writers being cruel or trying to be like, we see you, trying to honor the fans with all of the theories that have been out there. There's even apparently there was a cake theory that they're all made of cake.
Yeah, because they dug the hole in the. Yeah, I thought that for a brief second, and I was like, No.
And so the name of the cupcake shop is Cupcakes That Smile Back.
Oh
Or
my
that's
God.
like the tagline for the news.
Yeah,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
I'd really like to bite my teacher though.
I want to make her go away.
Like, what the hell? I don't know.
No, even that's just like,
I guess it's just to be like,
yeah,
wasn't that uncomfortable? Small child saying creepy things.
right.
Oh, sorry about the cupcake shop. When Dorothy's doing her intro to the story, I think she begins with, are you familiar with the expression "so cute you could eat it up"?
Uh-huh.
And then goes on to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think of when you hear that expression?
Yeah,
Babies.
baby.
It's what you say about babies
Maybe also a ham.
Yeah.
or a ham. But I thought, wow, that's dark.
Well, it made
Yeah.
me think about, like, again, back to Balloon, where they the placenta.
That's a crime. And
People do that though, is it?
Placenta?
if you don't tell people, it is a
Oh no,
crime.
that's
right,
that's
like
that's what I
vegan.
found weird about. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
the
gonna yeah,
croquembouche.
because I know people make pills and stuff like that, but then yeah, you gotta tell people.
I tell them what they're taking. And then when the UFO story is going on, Dorothy says aliens. Everyone knows aliens aren't real. Some are saying that it's a delusion or a hoax, and I just underlined delusion and hoax because that's what's happened to Dorothy. This delusion that the baby's real, or that the doll was her baby real, and then the hoax of what Frank and Julian and Sean did by getting
Mm.
a real, or allowing this real baby. I felt like there were little nuggets from both news stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. Everything is very well written. It's just so bizarre.
Sean, when he's questioning Uncle George about Jericho, he says he he feels like my real son, and then he
Right,
says, "I know that's my son."
right.
What did George say when he said that?
He just said, "Nope." Came in through the tunnels.
No.
Heroin addict,
Well, also,
Allie.
oh, Leanne is loves Jericho, but she's gonna leave him in a hole in the wall.
That's what I was saying before. Like, even
Right.
if it isn't his son, they've been raising him for however long. You form a bond with a child, I would
He would feel
assume.
like, yeah, he feels like my son.
Right.
I mean, I think he meant it as it like literally feels like my real
No,
son.
no.
But
Yeah, he did. You could see it in his face. He was like, "That's my." Yeah, exactly. No, for sure.
like I've been
I just
looking at
mean
this
there are multiple.
baby and like it looks like my baby.
Right.
So next week is Tunnels, and the little tagline says that Julian and Sean decided what to do about Leanne.
Okay.
I wonder if
Well-
they're gonna try and like either escape through the tunnels themselves, or if they're gonna use them for like a sneak attack, or.
You know, that evacuation is coming up.
Oh, right, evacuation, yeah.
I wonder if they decide better to go through the tunnels and avoid, I don't know what, scrutiny,
Yeah, I
Mhm.
and the tunnels will play a role as well. Or maybe they have to use the tunnels to get back into the house. You know, like they're evacuated and they're like, we have to get back in because you have to do the ritual in the basement, or, you know, who knows what.
Something convoluted like that. Oh, that's where he was piling the stuff in the hole, and yeah.
please give them the strength to bring the fallen one back to us.
The fallen one, the fallen angel.
That's what he says at the very end.
I don't know why I'm so against it being that she's a fallen angel
Well,
I
she's
guess
it's just that she's fallen from the
or
faith.
fallen from the path.
Yeah. But if you intend to kill her, will she come back again better? Or just because she was a problem?
I think that whole ritual thing, I don't think anyone comes back from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No, for sure. It's just interesting phrasing.
It's like the witch hunt, you know, like
Yeah.
if you float, you're a witch. If you sink, you're not a
Yeah.
witch. So
But
congratulations.
you go to heaven.
Let's talk about briefly before we wrap our takeaways from this in terms of what we think is going on in the bigger picture with Leanne and this darkness. Do you think that she brought it into the house, and out of, you know, everything that happened and was said and unsaid during this episode, what of it is actually true and was like a reveal, and, you know, was there anything that wasn't?
Right. What's important is important, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter why it's important, which is great, I guess.
I think the biggest takeaways from this episode, it had me looking at Dorothy's investigation, Uncle George's lie that he told, and then the truth reveal in the end, and most importantly, Sean and Julian's conversation before Roscoe came up behind them
Mm-hmm.
and did a snoopy snoop. um, I think Julie and that book, which led
Yeah.
to the conversation. I think the fact that the book had first a depiction of a fallen angel,
Mm-hmm.
and then a separate drawing of Lucifer,
Mm-hmm.
that sends me back to the seance episode.
Right.
There's a darkness in the house, and the fact that Leanne was seeing it too in her dreams.
Yeah.
So it looks like the CLSers, the cult, the OG cult,
Mm-hmm.
they are fallen angels, or they are angels on earth
Right.
who have died and come back to do good for who knows who. But
Right.
let's say
They were reborn, if you will.
correct.
You know, and Leanne is one of those.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she has fallen off the path.
Right.
And as the cult video warned, when one of us falls, it can become very dangerous. The
Mm-hmm.
ritual has to occur.
Yeah.
So I think the book with the fallen angel and the Lucifer and the talk about the dark entity in the Turner house, I'm putting that all together to mean Leanne is an angel, fallen angel, maybe fallen off the path,
Mhm.
and walked into this terrible, perfect place, godless home,
Mm-hmm.
where she's been taken over by this entity.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the seance episode, we see the vision of the dark entity moving around in the house,
Right.
and it has that very distinctive dragon tail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is in the picture of Lucifer.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So-
And I think that the more that I think about it, the more I feel like all of that stuff that we saw in the book, and like you said, that Julian and Sean were discussing, I think those things are true. and Uncle George was trying to throw them off the scent for some reason. What do you think that, aside from the fact that, because as we've discussed, we feel like they did that because they didn't want them to be afraid of Leanne?
Why does he want the Turners to not fear Leanne? The only thing that I can come up with is Jericho, the Jericho factor. That Jericho is the terrible Faustian bargain piece that Leanne has over them.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The Turners need to be able to get Leanne back to Uncle George and the cult for, one reason or another, because they got to get her out of this house, I assume.
Right.
But if they think that they're going to lose Jericho, and if they know that Jericho is not real, or that Jericho will leave with Leanne, then it's going to probably be less likely that they're going to want to let Leanne go because they don't want to lose Jericho.
Right.
So if they don't think that that her powers are real, or that any of this is real, then, and they know that this is an adopted baby that's not going to disappear at whim, then they get to think that, like, okay, well, we're going to get to keep the baby and we're going to get to give Leanne back. And now we know for sure that that's like what the situation is, even though that's not what the situation is.
Right. Like,
but for the greater good of the world, George had to lie to them in order to even possibly, hopefully be able to facilitate that.
I believe that's the case. I think that Uncle George has been living with the terrible memory of his cowardice in the attic when he was going to perform the ritual on Leanne, and she started that fire.
Yeah.
And he ran away, got hit by the car.
Yeah.
So I see him now as imagining himself as a martyr for this greater good to save the world. So he's getting rid of people like Roscoe that could get hurt as a bystander. And he says something when he's whipping himself, like, I know I shouldn't have lied. As if he's feeling bad about putting the Turners in greater danger, but it's for this greater good.
What do we then think that Jericho is? Are we thinking that that Jericho then is also reborn, just like Uncle George and just like Leanne?
I want to say what I've always thought, which is that Leanne brought the real Jericho back.
I mean, I think it is too. And I don't know, I had said at one point in one of our conversations that I thought perhaps she, if she was there when Jericho was carried out watching, that would give her the ability to know where they took Jericho in order for her to get her hands on Jericho's actual
your dark theory.
I know, it's really dark. And your response made sense too. Like, why would she then have held on to that trump card or whatever, for 6 weeks or however long it was between that happening and Leanne entering the home? And that's a good point. I don't know. So I might be wrong, but I agree with you. I do think that it is Jericho. And that's part of the reason why Sean was like, that feels like my son, because it is his son. Sort of, but not really.
There has to be stakes, real stakes.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone at this point wants to see Dorothy wake up.
Right.
And with that awakening is going to have to come her letting go.
Yeah.
And if it's just some crack baby, alley baby.
Right.
It's not as great a price that she has to pay.
That's a great point too. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because she is going to have to give Jericho up.
And it's going to have to mean something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For all of them. But yeah,
right.
Especially Dorothy.
Yeah, I agree.
We love Lost on this show.
We do.
And when I was thinking about the dark entity and Uncle George's plans, it reminded me of poor John Locke. He had to die. They had to bring the body back. I was thinking about the dark entity entering Leanne and becoming like the smoke monster entering Locke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we can't let Locke monster off this island or the world will end.
Right.
And so it's kind of with Uncle George, I think it's like we can't let this Leanne monster to continue to live because
Yeah.
the world is going to end.
Yeah.
It grows stronger every
night she grows stronger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think every night she's in that house as she grows.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, right there.
Yeah.
Oh, you had mentioned something interesting about Leanne's smile, that creepy.
Oh my gosh. I noticed something when I was editing because and there's so many fun little things I'll notice when I'm editing, just like randomly. But I was really, a little put off by that creepy smile that the camera zoomed in on when George was talking about how after she came to the Turners and met, and then this group of people, how she just kind of thought that she was something else. And when they do that, the camera zooms in and she has this really like false creepy smile, right? And I was like, what is that about? Why? I couldn't figure it out. I didn't understand like what it was meant to say or be, or I honestly had no idea. I just thought it was such a strange choice. But when I was editing, I noticed that screenshot was accidentally next to a shot of her family, standing outside their farmhouse before it burned down, where her mom is pushing the corners of her mouth up into that like really ridiculous large smile.
It's a brilliant comp.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense. And that picture is the second creepiest thing that's ever happened on Servant, aside from Roscoe under hypnosis.
Yeah, Roscoe chanting. Yeah, it is a creepy ass picture, not gonna lie.
It's a comp, I think, that is real.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it, but we've only got 3 episodes left. So I doubt there's, a heck of a lot more to it other than Leanne is being controlled by something else that is dark within her, that's playing on those things that happened to her that, made her into who she is.
As her mother was manipulating her smile in that photo, the dark entity is manipulating her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it also kind of speaks to the darkness of what happened to her by her mother.
How
right? So like, her mother was abusive and horrible to her. And that in and of itself is part of darkness. You know what I mean? There's like we talk about good and evil as these nebulous things, but really what they are is a compilation of little things that make up, who we are, I guess, fundamentally, and whether we're succumbing to the darkness that might taunt us or tempt us throughout our lives, or if we resist that and, try and keep good, whatever that means. So I don't know. I felt like maybe it was partially that too.
Well, yeah, it reminds me of the whole pageant concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's all fake. It's all show.
Right.
This entity is in her body, puppeting her, not completely, but in moments and important ways. I immediately flashed when you were speaking back to the other scene we get, the other flashback where the mother says, "You're ruining this for me."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine a similar kind of thing if Leanne were to try to fight the darkness.
Yeah.
To not give in.
Yeah. And that darkness has touched everyone in that home to some extent.
I believe it has.
Like we have seen it inhabit, in my opinion, everybody at one point or another.
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
And I think that, like, we see it in 2 a.m. with Dorothy. We see it in Sean when he is on the show and he's screaming at people and making them cry.
Yes.
And I think he really saw that too when he was watching himself. Like, I know he was watching himself go viral, but I think that he wasn't proud of himself. He didn't feel like that was a version of himself that made him feel good.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
we've seen it in Julian too,
With
so.
his addiction, with his
Yeah.
anger, with
Right.
his isolation.
Mhm.
Do you think Frank knows about it? Do you think this is why Frank has always been stayed away from the house, and when he's there, he can't wait to leave? And the minute
I
he
mean-
gets there, he goes for wine or scotch.
I still feel like Frank knows everything.
Eh,
And he's the wizard.
okay.
But with every episode, that kind of gets a little less and less likely.
Hold on to that one.
But I'm just going to hold on to it for now. Let me hold on to it for like one more episode.
Okay.
I don't know yet. I don't know. It seems odd to me that he wouldn't know based on the stuff that he said.
Just the way that he doesn't ever want to be there.
Yeah.
And when he's there, he has to numb himself.
Yeah.
And
And
then
he knows
runs
too.
out.
He talks about like, selling the house, that there's too many ghosts there.
Too many ghosts. Yep.
Whether it's literal or figurative, it isn't untrue. So I think that Frank maybe is the only one that's really smart, because he does try and stay away. But
Do you think the darkness killed Dorothy and Julian's mother?
yeah, I think that all the deaths inside that house are because of the darkness. The deaths of all of her babies, as anybody that's died in there. Yeah, I do.
Ugh, so creepy. Yes.
Yeah. Whether directly or indirectly. And I don't know. I think that maybe that's really what the show is trying to say. Like, this is an allegory for what evil and darkness, like the evil and darkness in our world. This is a story on a smaller scale of representing that.
That's what he's always said he wanted to do with Servant.
Yeah.
Julian line of the week was in writing.
Say
What a goofball.
This dude and his makeovers.
it. So funny.
What was the other one? What was the other one that was like bro?
Yeah,
George, right?
I was just noting that it's like they're back to being brothers. Like that's why it came up so often.
A nice little happy family.
So I wonder what Dorothy's plan will be versus Sean and Julian.
If it will be at odds.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see.
Ooh. Why do you think she was excluded? Just because of the baby?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Because like no, I mean I guess just because of the baby, because that would ruin that whole thing, like thematically. But like, wouldn't it also help for her to know that
But perhaps
unless she
they'll-
just doesn't believe it?
yeah, perhaps they'll let her in on it to some degree next.
I just find it interesting that George wouldn't also try to at least. I don't know, because I don't. She's not gonna. I guess Dorothy's already pissed. So
I mean,
Oh, man.
again, I took it to mean that they're back to normal, which
Yeah.
means they don't communicate. And it's Sean and
Fantastic.
Julian covering things up and keeping secrets.
Yeah, that falls in
Poor
line with
Dorothy's
everything.
good, for her sake.
Right,
Blah blah blah. Keep her from hurting herself.
right.
So in a way, it was like, hey, you guys are all right. And there you go. Okay, now we're gonna finish telling our story.
I'm really disappointed because I really wanted to learn more about the cult. I thought we were going to learn
Me too.
how the
That's
cult
what I expected.
operates. And yeah,
We may still yet a little bit, but
I would hope so.
I hope
me
so.
too. And also, is that a person? Is that somebody at the head of everything, or is him like just the idea of God or whatever? Like, is it like an Aunt Josephine type?
Right. I'd like to know that too. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's either God and a him with a capital H, or
Right.
it's the hook hand
Right.
man,
Yeah.
or the tall man that we saw outside the car, or a different
Satan. I mean, him could be Satan.
Yeah, I mean that would be
Sure.
wild.
I mean, I know that I don't know, it seems like the cult was in worship of God, but
Well, God could be anything.
yeah,
Like
Right.
when Uncle George said this is a godless house,
Mm-hmm.
and he made it sound like a bad thing. But it would
But,
be really cool if they were actually Satan worshipers.
yeah,
That would be a twist.
right.
I would
And
love
a
that.
couple things that made me think that like that could be a viable twist and could make sense, even as to why they're like so connected to the house that has this dark entity haunting it.
Yeah.
I also have no idea what's going to happen next week.
You know, fuck you, M. Night Shyamalan, for giving us local humans and then trolling us about aliens. So wrong.
It's annoying because it's like on one hand you're going, okay, are you telling us that we're being silly? Are you telling us that you know, I don't, but I think that the last thing he says to Roscoe is the story here is nearly over,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
kind of, I don't know, I guess can tie back into where we started this episode today in saying that like this piece of art is an allegory,
Right.
Yeah.
and this is what we're trying to say, and take it back.
Well,
Do we think they'll pull it off?
M. Night Shyamalan just better hope he never runs into me.
That's a whole
I have a
other
lot of
conversation.
questions for that guy.
I've got 2 notebooks. Can we sit down? I would
Yeah.
like for you to answer these questions.
Exactly.
You want me to get Tony?
Find himself in a locked room with all of my notebooks.
Yeah.
And while you're here,
With our board and
happening-
all of our pins.
Yes. You're not getting out until you explain everything and make it better make sense, buddy.
Also, another probably apropos note to end on is that M. Night said he wants us to doubt everything. So I think that's, you know, we will see some sacrificing for the greater good of the human soul.
Mhm.
That's
It's
what
all got to come down to Dorothy and Leanne and the giving
Mhm.
up of Jericho.
There's no way it's not anything else, right? Like, I mean, I guess we'll see, but I don't think they're gonna keep that baby
yeah.
No, they can't.
There's no way they can keep.
unless it actually is him.
Still, they can't because he died.
Yeah, facing your grief is kind of the point, huh?
Yeah.
Kind of like he died for their sins, so they
Oh
can
no.
be better people.
Yeah,
You know.
Wow.
I hate it here.
Yeah.
That's pretty chilling.
For their sins. Damn. Yeah.
And then what gets better?
Theoretically, they do. They become
No,
better
but I mean,
people.
but in what way though? You go back to work and you're not as vain and
Well, yeah, you become a little
you're
more
more
humble.
attentive.
You become more connected to your husband,
That's a hell of a lesson to learn that way, but oh my God.
right?
Perhaps they can find a way to have another child at some point.
Yeah.
Oh God, if even, yeah. That's another whole thing.
I know
Wow.
it's not a happy ending. I don't know if that means that everybody dies or if that just means like the pain of having to finally face their grief.
You know, I was thinking I'm picturing the poster in my mind for season 4.
What is it?
Leanne with Jericho in her arms,
Oh, right.
like she's
Right.
ascending,
Like,
and
yeah.
they're all trying desperately to pull her back down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking of what we're talking about. Like, don't take this baby slash security, not or placebo, whatever you
Also
want to
right.
call it.
Yeah.
You know, we need it.
Yeah.
We can't talk to each other. We
Yeah.
need that fake baby.
Mm-hmm.
And if she's gone and the baby's gone, then they have to talk to each other and they have to deal with it.
Exactly. Julian has to face the fact that he's an addict. Sean has to face who and what he is. Same for Dorothy.
And what he did to his wife. Yeah.
Yeah. Twice.
Well, I can see the
Twice.
potential in that being a really sad and beautiful ending too.
That's what I'm expecting. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in again. I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode. Did you like it? Hate it? Somewhere in between? What do you think is going to happen next? It will be for tunnels.
3 more? 3 more?
Three
Okay.
more. I can't believe it's 3 more.
I went quick.
No matter like whether the episode is exciting and awesome or makes me mad, I still am sad that
Oh no, this has been it's a fantastic show, whether or not like they get to a point that's not like the ending can't always be the point. I mean, I know it is specifically here, I guess, but like
it also
it doesn't mean anything that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So much is made about sticking the landing,
Yeah,
but for me, it's more like the journey.
right. It's well acted. Everything is beautiful. Everything like the music is pretty good.
And I
Good.
think that, like you really feel that when a show ends, especially one that you love. You get to those last few episodes and I think that you really, even when you have an ending that's satisfying, you're
Mhm.
still going to lose it, right? So
Yeah, it's special.
yeah, if if it's a show you connected with, if it was special to
Right.
yeah, having to accept that loss, no matter how good the show was. And usually it's in those moments that I realized that I loved the journey the most. That
Oh,
that was
absolutely.
what it was. But
Right.
then what I was emotional about was the ending of the journey,
Mhm.
and not like the ending itself.
So when Servant ends, we're going to need our own Servant show doll baby.
Yes.
We'll just keep talking about it.
Uh-oh.
I'm sending you
Fake servant.
both reborn dolls
Oh, good. Yay.
on your shelf. I'm not doing it.
That's so expensive. Oh my god.
I know they are. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Alrighty.
Bye.